He understands my soul, Mark. You just understand spreadsheets, she said, blowing cigarette smoke into the cool night air, her head resting on another man's shoulder. I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I just paid the tab, walked out to the parking lot, and drove away, leaving them stranded at the vineyard I had paid for. Hey everyone, before we dive into this narration, if you enjoy stories about karma hitting hard and reclaiming your self-worth, make sure to subscribe to the channel and smash that like button. It really helps us out. Now, let's get into the story. Jessica and I had been together for 3 years. I'm a structural engineer, logical, steady, maybe a bit boring to some, but I'm the guy who has a pension plan and emergency savings. Jessica was the opposite. She was a creative consultant, which mostly meant she bounced between graphic design gigs and trying to launch an Etsy store that never quite took off. I loved her chaotic energy. I thought it balanced my rigidity. I was the anchor, she was the sail. Or so I told myself. In reality, I was the bank and she was the one spending the deposits. For 3 years, I funded the lifestyle she felt she deserved. We lived in a high-rise downtown because she needed the aesthetic for her inspiration. I paid the rent, the utilities, and the lease on her Audi because she needed a reliable car to get to client meetings that rarely happened. I didn't mind providing. I was raised to take care of the people I love. But looking back, the dynamic was skewed from day one. She'd spend her days at coffee shops ideating, while I pulled 60-hour weeks to make sure the credit card bills were paid. The shift happened about 6 months ago. Jessica started hanging out with a new crowd, an art collective downtown. That's where she met Julian. Julian was everything I wasn't. He was a struggling painter who lived in a loft with 4 other people, wore thrifted clothes that cost more than my suits, and spoke exclusively in pseudo-philosophical riddles. Suddenly, I wasn't just the supportive boyfriend. I was the corporate shill. She'd come home late smelling like clove cigarettes and cheap wine and tell me how Julian challenged her perspective on the universe. "You're so safe, Mark," she'd say, scrolling through her phone while I heated up the dinner I'd made 2 hours prior. "You map out every step of your life. Where's the mystery?" I tried to be understanding. I thought she was just growing as an artist. I tried to ask about her art, tried to plan trips to galleries, but every attempt was met with an eye roll. "You're trying too hard," she'd say. Then came her 28th birthday. She wanted a wine tasting weekend in Napa. I went all out, booked a private villa, reserved tastings at the best vineyards, the works. It cost me a fortune, but I wanted to reconnect. I thought if I could just show her I could be fun and romantic, the distance between us would close. We drove up on a Friday. Saturday afternoon, we were at this exclusive winery, sitting on a patio overlooking the valley. I stepped away to the restroom, and when I came back, I saw an extra chair at our table. Julian was there. I froze. Jessica was beaming, pouring him a glass of the vintage Cabernet I had just bought. "Surprise!" she squealed when I walked up, though she looked nervous. "Julian happened to be in the area for an installation, so I told him to crash our tasting. Isn't that serendipitous?" I sat down, my jaw tight. Yeah, serendipitous. The next hour was a masterclass in humiliation. They talked over me, reminiscing about inside jokes and critiquing the art on the wine labels while I sat there like an intruder at my own party. Julian didn't even acknowledge me, except to ask if I could order another bottle. Finally, I'd had enough. "Jessica, can I talk to you for a second?" She sighed, dramatic and loud. "God, Mark, don't be a buzzkill. We're vibing." "I paid for a romantic weekend for us," I said, keeping my voice low, "not a third-wheel date with your art friend." That's when she snapped. She looked at me with pure disdain, grabbed Julian's hand and leaned into him. "See, this is what I mean," she said, loud enough for the tables nearby to hear. "You're so possessive. You think because you pay for things, you own my time. Julian gets it. He understands my soul, Mark. You just understand spreadsheets. We have a connection that goes beyond your little structured world. Honestly, I'm allowed to have options. You're my safety net, but he's my fire." Julian smirked. "Let it go, mate. She's a free spirit." Something inside me just clicked off. The anger didn't explode, It evaporated, leaving behind a cold, hard clarity. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw a spoiled child playing house with a moocher, all on my dime. "Options," I repeated. "Okay." I signaled the waiter. I paid the bill, including the bottle Julian was currently chugging. I stood up, adjusted my jacket, and looked down at them. "Enjoy the fire, Jessica. I'm taking the safety net with me." "What?" She laughed nervously. "Where are you going? You drove." "I know, and now I'm driving back." I walked away. I heard her calling my name, first annoyed, then panicked as I crossed the parking lot. I got into my car, blocked her number, blocked Julian's number, and drove 4 hours back to the city in silence. It was the most peaceful drive of my life. I got home, packed 2 suitcases of my essentials, and went to stay at my brother's place. I left her stuff there. The lease was up in 2 months anyway, but I called the landlord that Monday and paid the breakage fee to terminate it early. I removed my name. Since she wasn't on the lease because her credit was shot, she was technically a guest. I also canceled the credit cards she was an authorized user on. The phone plan? Canceled. The insurance on the Audi? Canceled. I went full gray rock. No contact, no emotion, just administrative detachment. It's been about 6 weeks since the Vineyard incident. The fallout was spectacular, according to mutual friends. Jessica and Julian were stranded in Napa. Apparently, neither of them had a credit card with a limit high enough to rent a car or book a hotel room for the night. Jessica had to call her parents, crying, to wire her money for a bus ticket home. When she got back to the apartment, she found the locks changed by the landlord a few days later because I had surrendered the keys. She had to scramble to get her things out. She tried to come to my work, but I had already alerted security that an ex-girlfriend might show up and cause a scene. They turned her away at the lobby. I unblocked her for 10 minutes just to send a text regarding the car. "The Audi is in my name. The payments are stopping. You have 48 hours to return it to the dealership or I report it stolen." She returned it. From what I hear, fire didn't last long without the safety net. Jessica moved into Julian's loft. Reality hit them hard. Julian wasn't just a starving artist, he was lazy. He expected Jessica to fund their bohemian lifestyle, but without my credit cards, Jessica was broke. Our friend Sarah told me that within 2 weeks they were screaming at each other. Julian called her high maintenance because she wanted heat in the apartment. Jessica called him a loser because he wouldn't get a day job. The irony is delicious. She wanted a struggle-free life with a struggle-loving guy. As for me, I've been hiking. I started learning Italian, and I put a down payment on a small house, something I couldn't do while funding Jessica's whims. I feel lighter. 3 months post-breakup. This is where it gets pathetic. I received an email from Jessica. Subject line, "I'm sorry. Closure." It read, "Mark, I know I hurt you. I was confused. Julian manipulated me. He made me feel like I was missing out on life. But I realize now that the life we built was the real art. You were my rock. I'm staying on a friend's couch. I miss our home. I miss you. Can we get coffee? I just want to explain." I didn't reply. Then the flying monkeys started. Her mom called me. "Mark, you can't just leave her destitute like this. She's your family. Everyone makes mistakes. She's willing to forgive you for abandoning her in Napa if you help her get back on her feet." "Forgive me?" I laughed. "Mrs. Miller, she cheated on me in front of my face. She told me I was just a wallet. The wallet is closed. Please don't call me again." I blocked her mom. Then came the late-night calls from unknown numbers. Voicemails of her crying, then screaming, then crying again. "You're a narcissist," she screamed in one. "You planned this. You wanted me to fail." It's amazing how the narrative shifts. I was the boring, safe guy, and now I'm the evil mastermind because I refused to be treated like garbage. I stuck to my routine. Gym, work, friends. I started seeing a nice woman named Elena. She's a pediatrician. On our second date, she insisted on splitting the bill. I almost cried. We have actual conversations. She asks about my day. It's normal, and it's wonderful. Last weekend, I ran into Jessica. It was inevitable, I guess. We live in the same city. I was at a hardware store, picking up paint for the new house. I looked down the aisle and saw her. She looked rough. Her hair was messy. She was wearing sweatpants that looked stained, and she looked tired. She saw me and froze. Then she marched right over. "Mark." "Jessica," I nodded, keeping my cart between us. "You look happy," she spat, her voice dripping with venom. "I am." "Must be nice," she said, crossing her arms. "I'm living in a studio apartment the size of a closet. I had to sell my jewelry. Julian stole my laptop before I kicked him out." "Sounds like a lot of drama," I said neutrally. "You did this," she hissed. "You pulled the rug out. You knew I couldn't survive without your help. You wanted to teach me a lesson." I sighed. "Jessica, I didn't want to teach you anything. I just wanted to leave. You said you had options. You chose the other option. I respected your choice." "I made a mistake," she shouted, causing a few people to turn heads. "People make mistakes, but you're so cold. You just turned off the love. How do you do that? Did you ever even love me?" I looked at her, really thinking about it. "I loved the person I thought you were, but the person who sat on another man's lap and called me a spreadsheet? No, I don't love her, and I don't owe her a life." "I can change," she whispered, her anger suddenly breaking into desperation. She reached for my arm. "Mark, please, I'm drowning. Can we just talk? I can be the girlfriend you wanted. I'll get a real job. I'll do anything." I stepped back, avoiding her touch. "I don't want you to be the girlfriend I want. I want you to be someone else's problem. I have a partner, Jessica, a real one, and I have to go." I pushed my cart past her. "You're going to die alone with your money," she screamed after me. I didn't turn around. I paid for my paint, eggshell white, very safe, very standard, and walked out to my car. I sat in the driver's seat for a moment, waiting for the guilt to hit. I waited to feel bad for her. She was clearly struggling, but all I felt was relief. It wasn't my chaos anymore. I drove to my new place, where Elena was waiting to help me paint. We ordered pizza, put on some music, and spent the night laughing while we ruined our clothes with paint rollers. At one point, Elena looked at me and said, "You missed a spot." "I'm on it," I said. And I was. Jessica is still blocked. I hear from friends she's trying to become a life coach on TikTok now, posting videos about toxic exes and surviving narcissistic abuse. It gets her a few likes, I guess. But me? I'm good with my spreadsheets. I'm good with my safety. And I'm really, really good with having no options other than the one woman who actually treats me with respect. So, to anyone out there being treated like an option while you treat them like a priority, leave. Don't make a scene. Don't fight for them. Just check the bill, pay your share, and walk away. The silence you leave them with is louder than any argument you could ever have. Thanks for listening to this story. It's been a crazy year, but I'm glad to be on the other side of it. If you enjoyed this narration, please consider subscribing to the channel. We post stories like this every few days, covering everything from relationship drama to entitled people getting a dose of reality. Leave a comment below. Was I too harsh leaving her in Napa, or did she get exactly what she deserved? I read every comment. Until next time, stay safe and don't let anyone treat you like a backup plan.